Right now you are looking at my router. And as many of you probably know, when your internet stops working, you walk over to your router, unplug it from the back, and plug it back in. And I'm getting sick of going over here and probably putting strain on the plug, unplugging it for 5 seconds, and then plugging it back in. So I thought there has to be a better way. This seems to happen to me like 20 times a day, and I'm sick of unplugging it. It's probably bad for the cable. It's probably bad for the actual jack on the router. So we're going to build a project to reset your internet in 5 seconds or less. Let's go. So by now you must be thinking, oh, it's going to cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to fix my internet, and just with a simple push of a button. Actually, it's quite simple. To do this, you're going to need a female DC power jack, the same type that fits your router's power supply. You're also going to need the plug. I'm just going to cut this off of a AC adapter that I never use. You're also going to need a normally closed switch, which when you press it, cuts power from the circuit so that it resets your internet. And you would likely want an enclosure for this, so what else would I use other than Altoids? I have thousands of Altoids boxes just sitting around, so might as well use one of these. Okay, to start off, we're going to take the AC power cable and give us a few inches, and then we're going to take some wire cutters and slice it off. Next, take your plug and split the wires on it using a knife, wire cutters, whatever you have on hand. There we go. And get them split apart just like that. Next, we are going to take our wire strippers and remove the insulation from the wires so that they are exposed. You will also probably want to twist these wires just so that they do not become unraveled. Okay, for this next step, you're going to want a multimeter. Set it to the function where it beeps. Then take your power connector and put the probe into the center of the connector like that. Then you're going to take the wires of over here that we just stripped and see which one beeps. That one doesn't beep. This one beeps. So, we know that this one is the center. Use a Sharpie, mark that one off, just so that we don't get these confused. On typical DC connectors, there is the stake in the center. That, on my case, is connected to power, so we're going to want to connect this part, which is connected to the post in the middle. We're going to connect that to the switch. Then, we have to figure out which one is ground, or the outside. Luckily, we can bring our multimeter back and figure this out very easily. So, go back to the wires. The one that you marked is not the one that we want. We want the one that you did not mark. And then take this and figure out which one beeps. Okay, so in my case, the one that beeps is this one. That would be the ground. And then that one is the center. So, center, ground. Next, we are going to need a soldering iron. I happen to have one. We're also going to need some solder. Helping hands would also be very nice for this. So, first, we are going to put the wires into the helping hands. Step 1, put the wires in the helping hands. If you already know how to solder, go ahead and skip this part because we are just tinning wires. Make sure your soldering iron is hot. Put some solder on the tip. It melts. Don't breathe this. Next, we're going to tin the wires with our solder and our soldering iron. I'm using a Hakko FX888. It is the greatest thing I've ever purchased. Probably. So, we've tinned the wires. Now, remember which one was ground? We want to connect that one directly to the wires. I will have a schematic so that you don't screw this up and burn down your house. Okay, so we take the soldering iron and connect the two grounds together with solder. Make sure that it makes a strong connection so that it does not break. There we go. On your switch, we have to figure out which one is the normally closed contacts. So, if you have a switch like this one, then it will have something that says C. C stands for common. That's the one that, no matter what, you have to hook something up to. Then there's NO for no, and NC for normally closed. NO means normally open. That means, as the switch is sitting right now, between these two pins, there is no electricity going. On the ones that say normally closed, that means electricity would be flowing right now when the switch is not being pressed. An easy way to remember this, if you're building this and you have no experience with electronics, NO means no. Don't connect anything to that one. There we go. That's easy enough for the average person to remember. So, using our little catchphrase that we just created, NO means no, we're not going to connect one of these wires to the NO. We're going to connect this one to NC. That means normally closed. When we press the button, the normally closed contact will actually open and let the electricity stop flowing through, basically putting a giant roadblock in its way, causing your router to shut off until you let go of the button. Okay, I have this thing of wire here, and since we need to make an extension, we will cut off one of the wires. Throw the thing that we got it off of to the side. You can get wire from anything. Ironically, you can get it from a broken router, if you need to. I bought my wire from Jameco. You can get it wherever you choose. There we go. Put the wire in, and following the same steps as before, put some solder on the tip, and then tin the wire. If you don't know how to do that, there are plenty of soldering tutorials on the internet. Feel free to go and explore them and learn a useful skill. Now, we are going to connect one side of this wire to the COM of the switch. That would be the C, might say COM, C-O-M. Your mileage may vary. This is even easier if you just buy a single tactile switch that is just normally closed. That eliminates any confusion, and you just connect the two wires, instead of having to mess around with three, which doubles your chance of screwing up. Then we're going to cut this little scrap of wire off so it doesn't short anything out. Your internet switch is complete. If you want to put it in an enclosure, you can. I'm just going to leave it like this for now, and we can go and test it. Now, go over to your router and take your new internet switch. Unplug this thing, the power connector, the old one. Plug in the new power connector. Like so. Take this thing, the one that we just rebuilt, plug it into the router, and the router should start back up. If smoke comes out of your router, you messed up. You have to buy a new router now, because your old one will not work. So, now, let's pretend that the internet isn't working. Oh no, the internet's not working. How can I fix this? Go over to the internet switch, and just press it. And look, your internet is reset. It's that simple. If you want to stick around, and I will show you how to put that into an enclosure. Without an enclosure, the internet switch is like a sad puppy that doesn't have a home. Send your puppy home and put your internet switch into a nice enclosure, and it will be happy forever.